Great. Well, for me, the album sounds like a control and beautiful chaos. If I had to describe it,
Great.
I would say that. So, if you were a journalist and you had to
Uh-huh.
describe the album, what would you say about it?
Number one, I would make a horrible journalist. I, I don't think I'd be very good at it. Um, but if I had to, because I think it's because of that. Like, I'm terrible at describing things. If I hear an album or I hear something that I like, and a friend's like, "Oh, well, what do you think of it? Like, how would you describe it?" I would usually go for the, "Well, you just have to listen to it. I don't know." And, but I will do my best. um, and I guess with knowing our influences, I guess that sort of helps. In that I feel that it's cool. Like everybody within the band comes from a very different sort of school of thought
Yeah.
within like hardcore and metal and things like that. And whereas Greg is more of a lot of the stuff he listens to is influenced by either black metal or by sort of like stoner metal type stuff. And Jay has a more chaotic approach to metal, and then Simon has a more, I guess, hardcore approach and melodic approach. So and we have three guitars, so that it all blends together in this compilation of weird like black metal, rock and roll, thrash metal, hardcore, punk rock, something. and then you bring me into the mix with a more sort of darker folk influence. It makes this giant mishmash of weirdness that for some reason fits together, and I don't know why, but it does. And I think that a lot of that, not to boost myself, but the vocals really bring a lot of that together. There's that sort of anthemic, almost folky feel to it at times that brings all the chaos together. And I guess that's how I describe it. I don't know. Like
No,
I said, I think a horrible journalist.
that's a great description, actually.
Thank you.
Well, some mystery and symbols are involved in the artwork of this album and the songs. And where do you find inspiration for all this stuff? Is it literature? Is it films? Is what it is?
Mhm. A lot of the inspiration is drawn from areas that I would say stem out of the left-hand path of religion, that stem out of a different way of looking at things, whether it be Satanism or paganism or Thelema, things that Aleister Crowley proposed back a long time ago, ideologies that are antithetical to a more white light Christian perspective on things. And a lot of those symbols come from that, because what we're doing is we're trying to view things outside of good and evil. I feel that a lot of times things are way too simplified by labeling them good or evil in our society. And a lot of that is based off of a Judeo-Christian perspective. And it makes it way too simple, because then we don't find answers. We never evolve past things that are societal ills. Rape, murder, classism, sexism, homophobia, things like that. Things that are actually very natural things. And I'll explain that in a second. That doesn't make them good. It just makes them very natural, that whether you're an animal or, whatever style of animal you are, there are class systems. There are ways of dividing us against them.
Yeah.
And as human beings, being, I guess, at some point a higher evolved animal, sometimes we don't act that way, but as sometimes a higher evolved animal, we don't realize that those instincts are very natural. So if we start calling things like that evil, we don't learn how to progress past them. So I find that very important that we get ourselves away from the idea of evil, the idea of religion or a God that is there to punish or judge us for things. But more so even, like I said, a lot of times when we look at something like, say, someone who has done horrible things to other human beings, we just call that evil and call it a day. Instead of saying, well, what causes this? What causes this problem? What causes this person to do this? What causes other people to do this? And how can we stop it? How can we look at this in a scientific way and say, okay, A causes B, so we got to get in there and figure out the root cause and how to keep it from happening again.
Oh, that's great.
So that's my long-winded version of what But a lot of that symbolism I definitely drew out of things that have, throughout history, taken a more natural pathway to religion, have taken a more natural pathway to symbolism other than Christianity or Judaism or, any of the other major religions, and have sort of have not been afraid to take sort of a seemingly darker path.
Good.
To the truth.
Okay, Nathan, do you think that right now in the States there is a band that can compare what you do, sounding-wise and lyric-wise and everything?
As far as a band that would sort of be similarly influenced?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to say because I feel like we take a lot of influences from a lot of areas. I know there are other bands that I definitely respect a lot that also take from a lot of different influences. There's a band called Knockmistium from Chicago.
Yeah.
They definitely have a more black metal influence, but they had a 2-part album that came out, Assassins and Addicts, that delved into a more rock feel, a more different other things. And I've definitely found a lot of inspiration from those 2 albums of theirs, and feel like they were sort of similar to what we're accomplishing and trying to accomplish. I'm trying to think of any other bands. I think it's sort of a mishmash of bands, honestly. I don't think there's any other band that's really delving into what we're doing, or if there is, it's very possible that I just haven't heard of them yet,
Okay. Well, Nathan, and do you take this band as your job, like something professional, or for you it's more like an escape to the rest things?
I take it as both, honestly.
Yeah.
I think that in one aspect, and I think if you don't, then you're doing yourself a disservice a lot of times with a band. There is the business aspect. There is the job to it. And you have to realize that, or you'll drive yourself insane and you won't go anywhere. But at the same time, you can't lose sight of the art of it. And not only that, but the psychological help of it. The stage and the practice room and the studio are my ritual rooms. Some people need rituals and religion and things like that to help them get through the day. Well, this is mine, and this is what helps me move forward, helps me vent, helps me get out all kinds of emotions, while at the same time helps me heal myself, helps me think more about where I should be, what I should be doing. But at the same time, there is a job aspect to it, and there is a lot of work involved. So it's a very good combination of both, I feel.
Great. Well, before we were talking a lot about influences, this is your second album. Do you think by this point, taking aside the influences, you have already achieved some sort of sound of your own, or do you still think that you are influenced by other bands?
I feel that with this album, we've definitely found ourselves, but I hope to never stop evolving and continuing to do more of that. I think that all bands, there's no way to really break away from not being influenced by anything unless you're just going to stand up there and bang on a guitar and scream about nothing, you know? I mean, I guess there's a way to be original, but you're not always going to find it in being completely original, because a lot of times that's going to be unlistenable, you know? But I hope as we progress and we move forward, I definitely feel we finally found our sound and who we are. But I hope that progresses and evolves. And if it doesn't, I feel that a band should probably stop if you can't, you know, do that. So
yeah. Well, Nathan, just to finish this interview, before you mention Alchemist, so for example, talking about Five Wheel, if you have to mention 5 bands that not only have influenced you, that maybe you can listen to them in this record in some sort of way, which 5 bands would you choose?
Let's see. 5 bands. I definitely choose Nakmestim as one of them.
Yeah.
I would bring Integrity into it, Dead Guy, Black Flag, and Current 93.
Huh, that's great. Well,
I think that's a pretty good blend of things that don't always go together, but definitely if you listen for them, you'll hear those things, you know.
Good. So you're doing a tour right now. You have